Welcome to the very first solo episode based on what I am seeing happening in the world, what I am feeling about what's happening in the world. And ever since 2020, it feels very clear to me that for a long, long time, we've put a lot of safety into organizations as far as a steady paycheck and benefits and a 401k. And as that has changed more and more since 2020, and we're in this messy middle where we can't necessarily look for that same safety and security in our organizations, and it feels really scary to find that safety elsewhere. Where can we cultivate more of a sense of safety and security within ourselves that doesn't come from an outside entity or an outside organization? So I hope you enjoy this first solo episode. Enjoy. Welcome to the Way She Leads podcast, where we integrate strategy, intuition, and real-life leadership so that you can create impact with more joy and ease without pushing, proving, or burning yourself out. Hi, I'm Megan Akatu, former corporate leader turned transformational coach, and I help women feel fully alive in their purpose in a way that ripples out through every area of their lives. If you've ever felt like there is a better way, you are not wrong and you are not alone. Each episode brings you conversations with experts and real leaders sharing tangible and holistic practices to help you lead your life in a way that actually feels good, not just looks good on paper. Welcome in. Hi, I'm Megan Akatu. Welcome to the Way She Leads podcast. Today, I want to name something that I have been seeing over and over again across my clients and probably across the entire economy as well, is that my clients are leaving meetings, whether it's just an everyday normal meeting, it's their annual review, they receive a particular piece of feedback from their boss or a colleague, and they are leaving and feeling a full threat response to what was said. And I want to normalize how much uncertainty is going on in the world right now. And when there is that much uncertainty floating around, our bodies are picking up on this as a threat response, as a fear response, as things feel unsafe. And our nervous systems are meant to pick up on these things in order to protect us. And yet it can feel very uncomfortable to be feeling this on such a regular basis. So I'm going to break this down a little bit more, and then what we can do to help love on ourselves, help regulate ourselves so that we can move through this very uncertain world in a way that does feel better to us. And so what is happening in a meeting where, let's say, your boss doesn't even respond to something you said, gives you a funny look, gives you a look like, stop talking, we're not going to get into this today, shuts you down, gives you a piece of feedback, you're in your natural cycle of your annual review, any of those scenarios. And then what is happening is then you leave the meeting, you're replaying the meeting over and over again of what I should have said, or I can't believe my boss shut me down in this meeting. And what it is starting to bring out in you is not only is it a fear response, but it's also my value here within this organization is being questioned. And now you're messing with my identity. Now, are we even looking at layoffs? And then I've been at this organization for X amount of years, and now you're messing with my paycheck or any of the above. And that can feel really, really scary because we are seeing widespread layoffs across the country. So even to break down more about what is going on is the BANI model. And this became more and more popular in COVID. BANI standing for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So brittle, people are more brittle. Organizations can feel more brittle. And so there is kind of this prevailing thought that organizations are like, yeah, we're now paying everyone more. So, figure it out. We don't want to hear any complaints. We've done what we needed to do. And as organizations are quite lean right now, there's also this overwhelming sense, even if they're not saying it, of you're lucky that you have a job. All right, we're not gonna listen to any complaints. It doesn't feel safe to speak up. Then there's just general anxiety, right? There's a lot going on geopolitically. There's a lot going on nationally. There's a lot going on in the news. And then there's also anxiety that is coming from the organization itself because things feel so uncertain. Are we going through layoffs? Are we okay financially? Nonlinear. We can no longer plan as far ahead as we used to be able to. It just feels like things are changing so fast, or even the effort that we put in doesn't necessarily translate into the results that we would typically expect. And then incomprehensible. There's an overwhelming amount of information coming at us. And again, this is from a world view, a national view, organizational view, but then also in our personal lives. This is a very, very busy time of year. If you are a parent, this is end of year concert time. This is wear a red shirt to school on Tuesday. This is we're making up X game because we got rained out 3 weeks ago. Graduation, prom. There's just a lot of big things that happen in this time of year as we wrap up the school year that also pulls at our personal attention in addition to any of the other responsibilities that we have to work and other family members and otherwise. So one thing that I'm asking you to do is to not work harder than you're already working. I know that you're working hard. And a natural response to a threat response, such as fight, flight, or freeze, is to say, my boss didn't value my opinion in that meeting. I need to double down on what I'm producing for them. Or I'm just going to prove them wrong. Or I'm going to put in more hours. My assumption and my guess is that you are already doing enough of that. And there isn't any more giving that you can do that's going to change anything. So even everything that I just said about the world feeling more brittle, feeling more unstable, that's happening. That could be happening for you personally right now. That also could be happening for your boss right now. We have no idea what is going on with them, what other pressures that they're under. So you trying to put in more hours just to prove yourself is likely not going to change anything. Also, that might not even be the thing that they're paying attention to. They have so many other things that they are paying attention to. Organizations are changing. Companies are changing. It doesn't feel as stable as it used to. Back in the day, it felt like government jobs were very stable. Higher ed jobs were very stable. A lot of nonprofit jobs were very stable. That is no longer the case. And so we can't find safety within these structures, within things where we used to, quote unquote, be able to find safety. Like, oh, my job is very secure here. These types of organizations don't do layoffs. Well, now we know that that is not true. And so the only thing that we can do is to cultivate more safety and resilience within ourselves. And this is what's going to help us get to the other side. Because I promise, I guarantee, over the long run, everything will be okay. And we're working through a messy middle of a lot of uncertainty right now. So how do we do that? So one of the first keys about building safety within yourself is creating time to be with yourself. So does this look like a morning movement practice? Does this look like journaling? Does this look like meditation? Does this look like a 6-minute breathwork practice? Does this look like yoga? Does this look like walking or running? I'm not here to tell you exactly which modality is best for you. I use a whole bunch of different ones. And having even a few minutes to yourself in the morning can really help set up the rest of the day. In the morning, you can sit with yourself and notice, is there particular tension here in my neck? Okay, good to know that that's already there. You can even just send a few deep breaths into that tension and just release it gently. Also, you can set an intention for the day. How do I want to show up today? I want to show up with a lot of joy. I want to show up with a lot of empathy. I want to show up with a lot of compassion. You get to choose exactly how that works. As you build in this practice, I promise it will get easier. It will feel more natural. And then as you are sitting in a meeting where you are receiving, let's say, this negative feedback, you can say, that doesn't feel good in my body. My body is really reacting to that. And I can also separate, let's say, the tension in my chest from receiving this feedback and the fact that I am still physically safe. I'm not being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, because that's exactly what happens when, for instance, we receive negative feedback. We take it, we feel it in our bodies, even if our minds don't understand what it means. And then we think, oh, something's really, really wrong, because it literally feels like a life or death situation. And so the more capacity we build around resilience, the more that we can even just recognize that incoming feedback and still separate it from a life and death situation. Just because we are uncomfortable does not mean that we are in super serious danger. Okay, so being able to separate that will then help you then re-regulate yourself, let's say even during that meeting or after that meeting, to be like, okay, I didn't love hearing that feedback, and I understand that I'm not dying, and let me re-listen, even if it's after the meeting, to say, what was the intention that my boss had when that person was sharing that feedback? Or what were they really trying to tell me? Even if they didn't use the right words or words that really landed with you, what were they really trying to say? And you can begin to separate that as you increase your capacity for resilience. The next thing is, as you've set this intention, you could also set an intention for, let's say, a particular meeting. You're walking into your end of year review. And so in that, your intention for that meeting is to listen to what is being said, take responsibility for the things that you can control, and then perhaps everything else you just leave there. And so you can be present in that meeting and also know that you cannot control your boss's reaction. You cannot control exactly what is going to be said, but you can know that you show up very calmly, confidently. You can speak clearly. You can ask for resources or help or support, the things that you need in a very calm way. And also you can be detached from what actually happens in the meeting. I have a preference for how this meeting goes. I have a preference that I get approval for these resources. So let's say that you don't get approval for an additional FTE in that meeting. Let's say your boss says no. You can detach from the outcome of what that means about you. You can say, I have a preference that I go in and I ask for this additional funding, but I'm not going to let the yes or no say anything about me as a leader. It has nothing to do with whether I used all the right words, presented it super carefully. A no might just be a no and doesn't mean that you don't deserve it, that you're not good enough, that you didn't present it right. And so having that preference before you walk into the meeting and being detached from the outcome can be really helpful in preserving your time and your energy about even how you re-regulate coming out of that meeting. As you're giving yourself more space, more quiet time, and for some people that is really about being in silence. For others, that is really about being in stillness. And for some people, that is really about being in solitude. And so again, as you are choosing, let's say I'm journaling, I'm meditating, which of the silence, stillness, solitude, which of those really resonates with you the most? Mine, for instance, is solitude. I do know that. So as I, let's say, sit in solitude and I'm quiet and I'm setting my intention for the day and I'm thinking about this annual review that I'm walking into, and I am deciding in that moment exactly how I want to show up and my intention for the meeting. And I also know that whatever's said in that meeting doesn't mean anything about me as a value as a person. So I already understand that. And then in this solitude and in this stillness, I can also use my intuition of what would be the next best step for me? What is my boss really trying to say? And so using that intuition will also help you navigate from that place. I would love for you to find joy in the little things. Is that getting a walk in every single day? Is that playing with your kids for 20 minutes after they get home from school? Is that making a super yummy, delicious mocktail that you are drinking with dinner? I don't know what it is. Is it knitting? Is it reading your book for 30 minutes? It doesn't matter what it is, but really finding these small moments that just feel so joyful and so delicious. And now that it's warm, it's a great time to be outside and really just enjoy everything that nature is giving us as well. But cultivating these small moments of joy. And I guarantee you're not going to find these moments if you're working every second. There's so much joy and beauty around us. We are cultivating safety within ourselves, resilience within ourselves, because these organizations are not giving it to us. Honestly, they never did, and they're not going to. We can't look for it in our boss. We can't look for it in external validation. We can't look for it in recognition. If those things come, great. We're like, thank you very much for that recognition. But when that is the only thing we're seeking, it really then takes away from that sense of safety that we are cultivating within ourselves. So in this example, have you ever left a meeting where the politics within the meeting are just haywire? You already know what everyone's going to say before they say it because you know these people so well, and just all the personality dynamics and personality clashes. Maybe a decision wasn't made. You're just annoyed with how the whole thing went down. Feels like we've talked about this 20 times. Why are we talking about this again? How come no one else in the meetings sees how this decision affects this other decision? I don't even feel like we're talking about the right thing, whatever it might be. And then you get back to your desk and you're like, I just can't. And then you get back into your email and you basically distract yourself with easier tasks. We've all been there. There's absolutely no judgment. And as soon as we say, I can't, we are cutting off all other possible outcomes of what that meeting was about or what we could do next. So I invite you, if you're coming out of a meeting like that is just really, really frustrating, you can give yourself a 3-minute pity party. Right? Do what you need to do. Take a few deep breaths, get some water, get a snack, get outside if you can. And then before you get into, let's say, the mundane of rechecking your email or whatever it might be, if you can just say, what was the intention? What were we supposed to get out of that meeting? Maybe your boss was really actually trying to convey an opinion that they had, and it just didn't land right because there was so much other commotion. Be like, oh, I think my boss was really trying to say this. Okay, if that is true, then how do I want to respond? Or is there a next step that I could take? Or, wow, it didn't feel like we made a lot of progress on XYZ, but where do I see myself fitting into this if we were to make more progress? So then use your intuition, even when you're frustrated, to say, okay, but what could this have been? Or where do we want this to go? Or where do I want this to go? And that will also just help move things along or help you navigate to the one thing that can be done or the one thing that you can take responsibility for. Because it's really easy to be like, oh, nobody asked me. We didn't come out with any clear steps. Nothing happened. And then instead of just going into shutdown, you could just be like, well, what is the one thing that I might want to do in order to move this along? So as a recap, what I'm asking you to do is regulate your own body. You can take a deep breath. Okay, we're going to separate what happened in that meeting from a physical threat response. 1. 2, after the meeting, we can reframe for ourselves what happened. What was actually the intention of that meeting? Or something like, what else could be true? Or is that true, right? Then the third thing you can do is then respond. What are you clearly asking for? What is your desired outcome? What is the next step that you might take? These are all ways in which that you can respond. So it is regulate, reframe, and then respond. So I am just here to normalize what might be happening with you, what is happening for many, many people across the world right now. You are not doing anything wrong. Things do feel uncertain, and these are some tools that you can implement for yourself in order to cultivate more joy, more resilience, more compassion for yourself. And maybe that extends even to others too, who are also making decisions. And that is where your power lies, is when you can regulate yourself through all this uncertainty and still show up with joy and still show up being peaceful and still show up and be calm and still show up with, hey team, I really think we should move in this direction because of A, B, C, D, because you're not getting pulled into all the noise and you can see more clearly. These are the things that A, are going to help move things forward, communicate your value, but also give you a sense of calm and confidence within your own self. I hope you find this helpful. Thank you so much for listening to my first solo episode. I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening today. I would really, really appreciate it if you left comments and sent in a review. This really helps me understand what resonated with you so I can continue to create more episodes that speak to you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.